So welcome back to the Beast Game Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. And we're talking today about Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves. Keith loves to ride the dragon.
Oh, hold up, man. This makes it sound like something else, yo. Who's riding the dragon? Let's not use those words again.
It's directed by John Francis Daley, Jonathan Goldstein. So National Lampoon's movie, the vacation movie, Ed Helms. Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Game
night.
Yeah, that game night movie. I think Matt and I had reviewed that one. That one was also pretty bad. It was also.
It wasn't horrible. It was just, just kind of.
But the writers are Jonathan Goldstein, John Francis Daley, and Michael Giglio. It stars Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, and Reggie Jean Page. Also, I mean, obviously, Dungeons and Dragons is mostly built upon a tabletop game. Keith probably plays that probably once every weekend, don't you?
I've never played the tabletop version. I played the computer games and read the books.
Yeah, but I mean, there's tons and tons of games that are based off of D&D. Synopsis is a charming thief and a band of adventurers embark on an epic quest, but things go dangerously awry when they run afoul of the wrong people. So the movie starts off with Chris Pine. He's in jail with Michelle Rodriguez, and this is kind of like more 13th, 14th century style life. And he's trying to get out of jail, and he's telling them their story about his life. His wife died, and he had a daughter, but somehow he wound up in jail. Turns out to be a little bit more than that, but he's trying to basically break out of jail to get his daughter. It turns out that Hugh Grant has turned his daughter against Chris Pine, and in order to try to get his daughter back, he's looking for the tablet of whatever. So, Keith,
I thought the movie was extremely entertaining. I was entertained. Even if I wasn't a fan, I went with people who were non-D&D fans.
Yeah, because I think the last D&D movie was that one that had Marlon Wayans in it. Was he in that one?
Oh, yeah. That was the last D&D movie was another one.
So it looks like there was Dungeons & Dragons in 2000. Dungeons & Dragons Wrath of the Dragon God in 2005. D&D The Book of Vile Darkness in 2012.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
All right, go ahead.
It was played up as an adventure movie. So
it's not like Game of Thrones, basically.
No, definitely not. You do not take the Game of Thrones seriousness of it. What they did do was they took the gaming aspect of it. Never played a tabletop role-playing game before. Like I said, I played computer role-playing games, but from known people my whole life who's played those games. And essentially, the antics they got into play out like the stuff that they enact in those sort of things. So the tabletop games basically have one person who kind of controls the game itself. The game master puts out the scenarios, hands the other 3 to 8 players roll dice and make decisions on how they're going to get out of something. Like you walk up to an inn, there's a door, the door is locked, you hear a scream inside. What do you do next? And they got to get in, so they all figure out how to get into the door and how to get into the inn or whatever. Like crazy scenarios. So essentially, this movie was made up of all the crazy, bad shit, broken scenarios that occur in one of those D&D games that people talked about. Because everything from them asking the undead 5 questions and fucking it up by asking 5 questions that were completely unrelated to what they were looking for by accident. Like stuff like that was happening all the time. Trying to figure out how to get across a chasm with just a rope. Accidentally stepping on traps, not realizing that the traps, because they weren't paying attention. It's like crazy, inane stuff that occurred. It worked out extremely well. I was surprised that the action was that good. Combat sequences were actually pretty good. They didn't do any crazy quick cuts or anything like that. They kept long, steady cams and just let the action play out. Special effects were good. I thought the acting was good. Chris Pine did a real good job.
Well, I would say Chris Pine is playing the same role that he would be doing in most movies. Star Trek, it's kind of like the same level of, hey, I'm just going to be over talking.
That's all his character can do. Like, he can't fight. All he does is play the lute and is basically a spy for the most part. He's a bard, and therefore he progresses or does anything is through his charisma. Talks his way through stuff, plans, gets everybody pumped up, and leads them off. And Michelle Rodriguez, she did a pretty good job. She did all right. Playing Letty, but in this case,
yeah, I mean, this role doesn't require her to do much.
Not at
And
all.
because
Not,
before they
not, not,
mentioned
not at all.
Baldur's Gate.
It takes place in a Forgotten Realm setting, so it's in the same setting as Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, all those games. I give them kudos for taking the source material seriously, but making light of aspects of the game. The parts they made fun of was the scenarios that will happen within a game. They didn't make fun of the actual source material or mock it or kind of play it up like or anything like that. Craziness that can happen in one of those Dungeons and Dragons games and put it in film. They didn't make it overly serious or try to give it some gravitas or anything. Really can't take it that seriously. About 90% of the stuff they were trying to throw out there actually worked out well. Diversity casting, I didn't notice it, didn't mind it.
Yeah, it was all right.
And most of the majority of the action sequences going to the women, that fits with the characters they were playing. So it made perfect sense how things played off. Expected middling action and special effects. I was kind of shocked what I got. And I'm glad that the story was fairly solid. It was beginning, middle, end. Fairly solid story, straightforward. Pacing was good. Nothing to really complain about other than I hope it makes enough money for a sequel and I'd like to see more from those guys.
I want to say it made about 40 some million this weekend. Get some comments from Mike.
I read it made 71. I remember the game when I was younger. I never played it. Didn't know a whole lot about it. Did play it when she was younger. And she wanted to see this. I didn't know about it. So,
Mike, like, yo, we went to go see John Wick last week. We could go see that again.
told me, she's like, hey, I want to see Dungeons and Dragons. She's like, I got tickets for IMAX. I was like, all right, cool. I mean, whatever, I'm down for it. You know?
So we're both right. So there is one article saying that it grossed about 38 million this opening night.
Domestic, yeah.
And then the global box office is 71.5 million. So we're both right.
Okay. Yeah, then went in, didn't really know what to expect. This is how mess when I got out. I was like, yo, I honestly was thoroughly entertained. Like,
it was entertaining. It was a fun little movie. I liked it.
Yeah. Like, for somebody that doesn't know too much about it, didn't even really know about the characters. I like the fact that they use practical special effects and makeup as well as CGI. Because I don't know, it felt almost like old Star Wars or old 80s and 90s.
Yes.
Had, like, you could see these real practical makeup pieces, and it looked really, really well. The whole thing just played out really good. Like you said, like, it's beginning, middle, end. Like, I was never bored. I was never waning. Like, oh, when the hell is this movie gonna be over? By the middle of the movie, I was invested on, like, okay, I want to see how this is really gonna play out in the end.
It kind of reminds you of like 80s movies. I would probably say like something like Army of Darkness.
Yes, that's a good one to take.
Go ahead.
Army of Darkness, Big Trouble in Little China. It's a fun action movie. Go ahead.
All the acting was good, even down the support cast, so I didn't even know who they were. I thought all of them play well. I think her name was Druid or something like that, the one that could shapeshift.
Yeah.
She did the owl bear, and I was laughing because she did the thing where she was picked the person that was slamming on the ground. We were like, oh, is that like an homage to Avengers when the Hulk slammed Loki because it looked kind of the same? The humor worked. Like, I wasn't sitting there going like, oh, this is corny shit. Everything was lighthearted, fun, and like he said, it's just really a fun movie. And then I think IMAX helped me because visually I was like, yo, where they're shooting, I'm like, even just the cinematography of it, like the locations where they're shooting at, it felt like a world epic, so to speak, I guess.
Yeah.
Everything is played well. Even Justin Smith, even though he's kind of basically playing the same.
Yeah.
You can argue that with all of them.
I'm like, oh, that's that dude from Jurassic World. Like, oh, no, this is going to be trash.
Yeah, like they all put actors in roles that they would definitely be good at. Michelle Rodriguez is basically Letty every movie now. But it worked for this because of how the character was. It worked. And then, like, Bradley Cooper popped up. I looked at him, I was like, wait, is that Bradley Cooper? So I was like, yeah, that's him. And I'm like,
play like a halfling. He's like, why is he so, this is crazy. What is going on with this movie?
Everything worked. The story, the concept, everything just worked. Yeah, I would put it on one of those things. If somebody wanted to go see it right now, I would go. I would have zero complaints about it. I would literally go watch the movie again because it was entertaining top to bottom. And for me, it was just a surprise. Because, I mean, when I saw the trailer, I was like, all right, whatever. I mean, you're doing Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know why, but okay. But compared to some other stuff I've seen recently, I'm like, this was damn good.
I would agree with that.
Well, for me, as Mike says, there's certain movies that are kind of like popcorn movies. This one definitely is a popcorn movie. You just turn off your brain and just kind of watch it. And I will say that I was entertained by it. There's a lot of movies like this out there, whether it be on Netflix, Amazon, or if it's come out in the theaters or something. People have gotten this wrong so many times. And Game of Thrones has pushed these types of movies a little bit more forward. And for them to not take that route, trying to make it all serious and then just kind of make it a lighthearted comedy. That type of movie where it's just like, it's a silly premise thing that kind of pulls it together is just the ensemble cast makes it work and just kind of the unpredictability of what happens. So, I mean, obviously there's a main bad guy, partially Hugh Grant. Again, that chick that I thought was Elizabeth Olsen for a hot moment. Chris Pine's character, he's doing the same thing that he would normally do in every movie, but for some reason, everybody's kind of playing their stereotypical characters, and it works. You can't really describe why. One thing that I felt after watching this movie, that I wanted to go watch Warcraft again. Probably will watch that at some point, because that was not a bad movie.
I think Warcraft would have benefited from a slightly similar approach. They could have done something like an isekai thing where they just had some guy playing Warcraft get dumped into the Warcraft universe, and he's like, what the shit is going on? And all that serious stuff playing out, and he's
basically Tron Legacy.
Kind of the background character, kind of giving understanding that I think Warcraft was too serious for its own good.
Well, I mean, again, it's kind of living in that Game of Thrones lane.
Mm-hmm. Played out a lot better. But I mean, I'm watching this, and the only reason my wife and my mother-in-law went to see this was because of Regé Jean. And he was only in it for like what?
Yeah, he was like, hey, I'm done. Peace out.
I think the reason why the movie worked was when his character left and Chris Pine is watching him. He says, yeah, okay, I like him. And he's just going to walk in a straight line. I'm just watching him. Is he going to go around that rock? I can't stop watching it. He's going to go around it. He's going to go over it. He's going to go through it. He goes over it.
That was fun.
I'm like, yeah. And then the part where the dragon pops up, and then Michelle Rodriguez just goes, that's a putty dragon. Like, the dude's all serious now. He's a villainous dragon who's killed thousands. It's like, look, he's fat. It's like they just look at it like, that's a putty dragon. And you got this fat dragon running around trying to kill him. And you're like, this is insanity. But 5 minutes before that, you had this action sequence that's straight up out of like Hong Kong's best. I'm just like, damn, this is like.
Yeah, and I will say this also kind of reminded me like something like Jumanji, like the more recent one, at least the first one. The second one was trash.
Yeah, the second one was trash.
Decent ensemble cast. It all kind of works out. Any other thoughts before we wrap up?
I watched this in IMAX as well, and I thought it benefited from the IMAX look. It's not necessary for you to watch it within IMAX. This was a good idea, and I'm hopeful that it doesn't get buried. I know it came out around the same time as John Wick, but
yeah. I mean, John Wick is probably having another strong weekend.
Beat out John Wick just a little bit, but that's about it. Like, it's not gonna.
Yeah, we went to see it again yesterday. Took my mother. Well, we had to take my mother-in-law.
Yeah, I remember you said you were going to do that. But go ahead.
And the theater was packed again. Had it on 5 screens. They said that the other one sold out so quick, they like switched their whole template and added a couple more screens to have showings all day because people were trying to get John Wick tickets.
Like, luckily, this thing's only PG-13, but John Wick's rated R, so that's. There's that a little bit, but even then, the people who would benefit from a PG-13 thing, there's still that stigma that dragons is demonic or whatever. I'm hoping word of mouth is what give it that longevity.
I think it won't be until it hits streaming. Once people kind of catch it, once it hits streaming, kind of like Dread. Like once Dread hits streaming, it's like, oh, this is a good movie. I mean, while it's out right now, because I think Super Mario Brothers might be the next big movie.
Yep, comes on Wednesday.
Yeah, so.
Oh, wow, it's on Wednesday? Yeah, that'll nerf this thing.
So.
Yeah, it's already kind of getting some pretty good reviews that I've seen earlier.
Yeah, this is a weird year for this to come out, but I mean, at the same time, my guess is that they were thinking that John Wick wasn't going to be that.
Nah, yeah. I mean, John Wick's will murder everybody. Might even murder Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, I don't think anybody like saw John Wick just like killing it the way it did, but I mean, they kind of should have because.
I mean, really, this movie probably should have came out January, February, because Ant-Man would have been that.
You got to avoid a Marvel. You can't come and
I'm just saying, this movie could have gone up against Ant-Man and won.
It could.
It could have. Yeah, it could have taken out Shazam too.
Ant-Man dropped 67% the second week, and this is the least grossing Ant-Man movie out of the 3.
I hate that second one. That second one is trash.
The second one was just filler to get the whole quantum realm thing established, so it made sense when they did it in Endgame. Which again, you don't really have to do that shit. Endgame would have still worked if Ant-Man would have showed up and said, "Hey, you ever heard of Quantum Realm? Fuck, let me tell you about it real quick."
Well, the other thing that came out was Scream and
Man, again, this movie would have beat
Creed.
that. This movie would have beat that too.
I don't know if it would touch
This
that.
movie would have beat that.
Definitely would have beat out Cocaine Bear, but I think they were trying to avoid getting caught in the Marvel.
I mean, because at this point, your tentpole movies would be definitely May. At that point, you really can't do anything because doesn't Mission Impossible come out this year?
Oh God, yes, it does.
Yeah,
July
so
14th.
yeah, so you can't.
It's
You
like
can't do
November, right?
anything.
And then November, it's not summer, right? It's
And-
November.
No, it's July 14th. It was supposed to come out last year, and they pushed it back.
And then
Trust me, I know that date.
Oh shit, yeah.
and then Fast X,
You
Big
shit.
Mike's crack cocaine right there, yo.
Boy,
Yeah.
have mercy.
My guilty pleasure.
So,
Mike just
Guardian
said,
first,
put it in
then
my
Fast
veins, yo.
X.
Put it in my veins, yo. Vin Diesel gonna drive off a cliff, hop out.
But the trailer already shows you was doing some ridiculous shit. But like I said, at
How
this
about the
point,
parachute,
if he's
yo?
doing anything less,
No.
that's on you.
You got to stop questioning anything the Fast and the Furious does. You know, Tyrese and Ludacris were in space. This sums up.
Yep.
If your brain is still operating after that bit of mess, you got like some issues.
It started
Again,
going wrong when they had a
Your
tank.
brain was operating after The Rock turned the missile with his bare hand.
Oh
At
Lord, have
that
mercy.
point, you should have already been
Yeah.
on the train of they're gonna do whatever the
Vin
hell they want
Diesel-
to do. Don't matter.
Flew across 2 bridges, yo.
No, that ain't nothing compared to the kids Doc Martens and did an atomic stomp and collapsed the
Yeah.
whole building. At that point, you got to let that shit go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The wife and I watched the Fast and Furious movies again, and she skipped Fast and Furious, the one right after.
Oh shit, that's the one that you don't skip because it brought
I
everybody
told,
back.
I told her, I'm like, what are you doing? I'm watching from the beginning when the good ones start. I'm like, no.
No.
You need to watch Fast and Furious.
You need to
She's
watch
what the
Fast
fuck are
and
you talking
Furious.
about?
You skip Tokyo Drift.
You start with Fast and Furious, all right? You watch the Fast and the Furious just to get a taste of the 90s nostalgia blast.
Too Fast, Too
And-
Furious.
You can watch Too Fast, Too Furious. Just
So you know who Tyrese is.
then you watch Fast and Furious when Vin Diesel came back, when the whole crew squad came back. That's when we saw it. She was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, and so when I watched that, I'm like, I'm looking at that tunnel sequence. I'm like, that's a long ass fucking tunnel. Been driving for like 10 fucking minutes at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, it was like that
That's so
runway.
long
Like
as
the
shit.
airport
Yeah,
runway.
I'm like,
that
all right,
runway,
so
yo.
no wonder I wasn't thinking about the airport runway being long. All right, it ain't nothing. All right, okay. Physics got broken in that movie. That's when the physics broke. I
That tunnel was about
understand.
as long as Mexico, bro.
It was a long ass fucking tunnel. Like, okay, now I understand when the physics broke because they've been driving for days. And they were hauling ass through that shit. Then Fast Five came out, and I'm like, oh, there we go. Okay, all right, I got you. There we go. I'm down with this.
But all right, let's go to scores. So does this get a 10 because there was one dragon in the movie?
Two dragons, goddamn it.
One
There's a
dragon,
flashback with there were two dragons. One of them was a little pudgy. The other one had a little cameo. He was a black dragon named Rotraxus. All right. I think it was like, that was his name, yo. Right? Look.
Oh,
That was
keep
his name.
up
He
the
was a
ride
black
dragon.
dragon. He spits acid, yo.
Keep
All
on
right.
riding dragons.
That's how he was doing. Give me a fucking dragon, yo. All right.
Would it be 3 because of the stone wanted to end?
yeah.
He was fake. That was kind of fake. An actual bronze dragon.
Yeah,
is like, all right,
look
come
at
on, let me
keep
stop.
up there
Let me
critiquing the
stop.
dragons.
Let me stop. Let me stop.
All right, but
All right.
doesn't continue.
Like, it had two dragons, Joe. It had two dragons, and I watched this movie again in a heartbeat. So I'm gonna give this thing an 8. All right, this is right up there. I could not have asked for better. Plus, it surprised me with how good it was. So I'll give it extra points just for doing that much. Solid popcorn film. It is unfortunate that it has caught up in the wake of John Wick, but they should have known that Keanu Reeves was going to sell tickets. They didn't have a choice. They didn't have a choice. I understand. And
Well,
I'm hopeful.
I think the comparison between this and John Wick might not be warranted because this is a more family movie. You probably should be watching John Wick, but you do take the kids to this one, kind of get something out of it. It's like, hey, yeah, we spent maybe like an hour and 45 minutes in the movie instead of spending 3 hours watching John Wick. But go ahead.
I
finish
agree.
up.
Well, yeah, I'm hopeful that this garners enough to warrant a sequel because it deserves it. It deserves it. Filmmakers did a good job. The writers did a fantastic job. Directing is good. Action was good. Special effects. Everything was solid. And solid movie. Hope for the best. Give it an 8.
All right, Big Mike.
I'm going to give it an 8.5 considering that unlike Keith, I don't really know much about it. And the fact that I went in
But the
and was
wife
thoroughly
knows.
entertained, that I would go see it again, I had to add the little 0.5 on. Like I said, I was thoroughly entertained. I thought it was good. I said I had no expectations, so maybe that helps with it too. But I said the whole movie worked for me from top to bottom. Like, was not bored one time. I was sitting there like, yo, I would watch this again in a heartbeat. Thoroughly entertained, for real. So I hope it gets a sequel. I'm gonna be honest. I'm on board. It works.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go 7.5, and it was entertaining, was enjoyable. Coming off of John Wick, where it was just like this constant action fest. I mean, where this one, some story, just kind of wackiness. But yeah, I mean, it was unexpected from a perspective. Last week, it was just like, it was probably good just to have a short movie that you can just go in, see, go out, and still be daylight outside. At least see a sequel to this. Again, you kind of have that Jumanji comparison where first one's fine, the second one not so much. But if you can keep up that same level of humor, the same fleshed out story, I mean, it should be something that you can at least make 2 to 3 movies out of and kind of be done with it. Beast Game Podcast. Ride the dragon, Keith. Woo!
Yeah.
Wee! All right.